All right, and you can see the title is called Avoiding Confusion. And the subtitle under it, if you can look up here, and it might be, and it is on this, but it's super small. It's Interpreting Cultural Issues Through a Biblical Worldview. And so there are things and issues going on in the world. And we're going to be looking at a whole bunch of them throughout this series. And then we're going to look at them, do a comparison. What is the world's view of it, and then what's the biblical view of it? And it covers a whole bunch of different areas, and so I'm not even going to try to name off all of them. I remember one of them is going to be dealing with social media, dealing with the gender issue, gender identity issue, dealing with the world view on the scriptures, and just it covers a whole bunch of different things. And so we're going to get started tonight on this particular series. And unfortunately for me, the teacher's manual is on Kindle. It's a Kindle format, and so I'm going to be looking down at my tablet a lot. Normally I have it printed out and able to have it a little bit bigger and things like that. And so I'll be on my Kindle often. But we'll start out in Ephesians chapter number 2. Ephesians chapter number 2. Did you get one of these? One for Amanda, too. Ephesians chapter number 2. And you can see the title. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Give us the title of the first lesson. So lesson number 1, in order for us to have the proper worldview or biblical view of world issues, cultural issues, we need to have a good foundation. And the important part of any foundation is the cornerstone. In Ephesians chapter number 2, verses 19 through 22, and this may be in the handout, so you can follow in the handout or you can follow along in your scriptures. It says in Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 19, "Now therefore you are no more strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints and of the household of God, and are built upon the foundation of the apostles and prophets, Jesus Christ himself being the chief cornerstone, in whom all the building fitly framed together groweth unto an holy temple in the Lord, in whom ye also are builded together for an habitation of God through the Spirit." And so Paul, writing to the church at Ephesus, is likening our lives to a building and our Christian life to a building. And of course, we have a foundation, and he mentions here foundation on the apostles and the prophets, so that's the scriptures. And the chief cornerstone is Jesus Christ. And we're going to spend the rest of this evening looking at a cornerstone. What is a cornerstone? The function of the cornerstone, the importance of the cornerstone, everything that it does for us. And we're not going to finish lesson 1. I may finish point number 1. So guys, you know how our Sunday school class goes. We might make it, we might not. But we'll have the handout and we'll know exactly what it is or where we're going to pick up next week. Stephanie, did I give you one of these handouts? No, sir. No. Okay. I'll leave it right here. All right, so the world today has, as I mentioned, there's this conversation going on in the world today about a whole bunch of different things, and he lists some here. the origin of life, the existence of God, the reliability of the Bible. There's conflicts between what the world believes on those things and what a scriptural Christian believes. Now, why would I have to say the word scriptural Christian? Because there's a lot of churches that don't teach the scriptures. Right? As a matter of fact, there's a whole bunch of churches teaching the worldview of these different topics that we're going to look at. As a matter of fact, I was just doing I learned a new term today about scrolling on Facebook. It's called doom scrolling. I'd never heard that before. So if you're just sitting there and you're scrolling, it's called doom scrolling. As I was doom scrolling today, I came across an article where in the Presbyterian church, a female pastor has come out and said that Jesus Christ is not the only way to heaven. All right? Now, that's in a church. Right? The Presbyterian church, they've been around for how long? Long time. The Catholic Church has been around since 313 AD. Luther nailed his thesis in 15-something. Is that right? 13-something? 15-something? He nailed his 99 thesis on the Catholic Church door, and that's when all those different Protestants started. And the Presbyterian is part of the Protestants. Don't let them say Baptist is a Protestant. Right? We did not come out of the Catholic Church. Now, we protest the Catholic Church, but we didn't come out of it. Protestants are those that came out of the Catholic Church. Lutherans, because of Luther. The Presbyterians, the Methodists, the Episcopalians. It seems like I'm missing one or two other ones that have come out. But we are not in that list. We trace our roots all the way back to the apostles. And so Baptists are not Protestants. But this Protestant female pastor. Now, what's wrong with that statement? And Protestant and pastor came out and said Jesus is not the only way. Now, can you guys think of a verse that says Jesus is the way?
I think it says Jesus is the way.
Doesn't it say? John 14:6, and Jesus saith unto him, or them, I am the way, the truth, the life. By the way, he doesn't stop there. No man cometh to the Father but by me. Doesn't that sound like one way?
Yep. One way only.
Okay. So even in churches, there's this worldview being taught. And so when I say scriptural Christians, that's what I mean. It's got to be somebody that has a scriptural point of view. Again, that's going to be the basis for the lesson is getting a biblical worldview. Look at the world through the eyes of the Bible. And the issues that are in the world through the eyes of the Bible. Especially as a church, we can't be bringing in philosophies and ideas that are of the world. Right? Like, does God have a beginning? All right. So one of the things that we're going to be looking at here is the existence of God. Was God created? Was God always there? Did he ever have a beginning? Is he going to ever have an end? there are some who teach that man created God, that man came up with the idea of God as a crutch. Don't let anybody tell you you're going to church and being a Christian is you leaning on a crutch. That's a lie from the devil. I like that one too, hell. And so we're going to be discussing these worldviews and then again comparing them to scriptures as we come upon them, as we come upon each of the issues. We're going to look at what the scriptures have to say. Now, it gives a little exercise in the teacher's manual, and a bunch of you wear glasses, right? Now, take off your glasses. If you wear glasses, take off your glasses. All right? Now look at me. Okay? Don't I look better now? Don't I look better now? Basically because you can't see me now. Put your glasses on. Put your glasses on. Take your glasses off. Put your glasses on. Take them off, and then put them back on. All right, what does that do to your vision? Right? If we kept doing it for any longer, you'd get a headache. But your vision changed in this. And so this is kind of the illustration that the writer of the lesson is using with this idea of taking off and putting on your glasses is your vision changes. And we're going to look at these different worldviews through the lens of the scriptures, right? The corrective lenses. Now, why do you wear glasses? What does it correct? Yeah, tell me exactly what your glasses correct in your head. Some of you have astigmatism. Some of you are farsighted. Some of you are nearsighted. Some of you are blind. You have age-appropriate blindness.
I can see you just fine, but when I put on my glasses, I can read.
Right. Okay, so I use readers.
Yeah.
Okay. John, what do you have?
I'm like 20,000 something.
20. You're like almost blind, right?
And you don't even have an outline.
Yeah. Like, if I remember right, my other son is legally blind without his glasses. If he takes them off, you see his pupils get real big, and he's trying to see. And it's broad daylight, and he's like, so that's what his correct. What is yours correct, Steph?
Nearsighted.
You're nearsighted. Betty, what is yours correct? You're farsighted. David?
Everything.
All things. I'm 70-something. Right? Okay, I'm 70-something. And so it's a corrective. It's an apparatus we put on our face to correct our vision. Now, some of you get to wear contacts. Right? Now, pop those things out, pop them in, pop them out. I couldn't even think about doing that because you're talking about sticking your finger in your eyeball, right?
Exactly. No way.
Every time I see that, somebody opens up their eye like this and they're going like this, I'm like, oh no. I'm wearing glasses. As a matter of fact, the VA has given me a prescription and I will not get contacts because I don't want to be.
No, I'm with you. No.
When do you have to have cataracts taken out?
Oh yeah. Fun stuff. And so what we're going to try to do in the lesson then is give corrective views, corrective lenses to look at all of these different scenarios that are going on in the world. So the important thing, like I said, and I mentioned this already, the important thing that we're going to look at now is going to be the cornerstone. I've already said we've got a foundation. Now we need a cornerstone. Give me the next slide, please. So this should be, let's go on to the next slide. There we go. So you see the cornerstone there, and if you've ever done any kind of building with bricks or block or anything like that, if you've built a house out of blocks or have ever been in Europe and you've seen castles, we used to live in Spain. I was stationed there, and we would go and visit castles all over the place, and I would on purpose look for the cornerstone. And you could always see it because it's bigger than any other stone. It's also the stone that has taken the most care to prepare. Because if your cornerstone is off, your building's off. If your cornerstone is right, then your building's going to be right. Right? They build the walls, the side walls, based off of the angle of the cornerstone. And so let's say instead of it being 90 degrees, it was 45. What would your house look like?
A triangle.
It would be a triangle house, right? And by the way, we lived in a town in Mexico, Zacatecas, and the streets were so narrow that they tried to build a building where two roads came like this, and it was a triangle building like this. There was one, I remember, the bottom floor had a gym in it, a place for them to exercise. It wasn't a full-blown gym. And then above it were apartments. And could you imagine your apartment on a triangle? I mean, what kind of couch would you have?
Not one.
Right? You would have to have a couch that had an arm on it that was at a 45-degree angle so you could slide it into the edge there, because you couldn't take up the rest of the room. And so if your cornerstone is at a 45, what's your house going to be? What if it's at a 180?
Flat.
Right? You're going to have that's a wall. You're going to have a wall. And so if your cornerstone is off, your building's off. But if your cornerstone is true, then your building will true. And again, we have a foundation of the scriptures, that's the prophets and the apostles. But the cornerstone is who?
Jesus Christ.
Now, is Jesus Christ true?
Yes.
Or is he off?
True.
Right? That's what we're going to be looking at. All right, once again, he's re-mentioning some of the topics we're going to study. Give us the next slide, if you would. We're going to look at the presence of evil, social justice, the role of marriage, the significance of gender. We're going to look at the fact that we're made in the image of God. God has stamped his awareness on our conscience, and you have a purpose because you were divinely designed. And so these are going to be some of the topics that we're going to be looking at. All right, give us another slide. Oh, that's the slide. I think that they're off a slide, because what I have here isn't matching up with there. And so I think they're off a slide. Now, if you look at the table that's up there, you see God's view. We glorify God. He's holy. He's absolute truth. Emotion is a byproduct. We have personal sin. We need forgiveness, and we need to repent. The world view, or secular view, is glorify self. Instead of being holy, you only need to be happy. Instead of having absolute truth, everything is relative. Right? Relative. Well, I feel like that this is what this means. And by the way, the next one says emotion is foundational. Because I feel like, right? And then instead of personal sin, on God's view, it's everything that happens to us is somebody else's fault. Right? Instead of taking personal responsibility, it's not my fault, it's, my dad's fault, my mom's fault, my grandkids' fault. Right? It's my child's fault. It's my child's fault that I'm in agony today. Instead of, needs forgiveness, man is best. And we're going to look at this postmodernism and define that, where man created God. And then tolerance. Have you heard that we need to be tolerant?
I'm tired of hearing that.
Like, let me just, for an example, I get in the church mail city ordinances that say when we hire somebody, we have to hire somebody under diversity.
Well, we don't hire people.
So, LGBTQ. By the way, there's 21 letters in that now.
What?
In the LGBTQ plus movement. It's now 21 letters long. It's incredible.
So only 26 letters.
Right? A couple of them are repeated too, so it's not even using all of them.
Wait, which A are you?
And so I would have to hire a homosexual.
No.
I would have to hire a transgender. I would have to hire diverse races. Right? I get this in the mail for the church. So you know how many people we hire?
None. We don't have to worry about it.
But don't you have to hire though? Like all 21 of them?
Nope.
So it's if you hire, you must hire?
If you hire, yep. If you're hiring, you must hire in this bracket.
Well, what do you do first?
But they don't
do they
expect
rank
you to
it?
hire. It's not something you have to do.
No. It's if you are hiring, which how many, as a church, how many churches hire staff?
Not very well.
Almost all of them,
Almost all of them do.
right? So you have the pastor, and then in other churches, you hire a secretary, you hire a treasurer, you hire an assistant pastor, you hire a youth pastor, you hire a music pastor, you hire you hire a band.
And is this just the city of Tucson that's requiring this?
Well, I'm in Tucson,
Right,
so I don't know.
okay. It comes from the city of Tucson.
Yes, it's an ordinance. So I think it's a state of Arizona ordinance. And so other states that have this same kind of thing on the books get the same letters that I get. But tolerance. You know, I used to tolerate things. Right? I used to tolerate things.
Not so much anymore.
Now, so when I say I had to tolerate things, what am I saying?
You're barely letting it live.
I had to put up with it,
Right.
Hope it changes.
right? It's like I tolerate loud music from my neighbors. I have to put up with it. Okay? What does tolerance mean today?
You have to love it, accept
I have to accept it,
it, be an ally.
right? I have to accept it. And so see how the secular view is different than ours? Let's go to the next slide. Is there anything else? I think there was a couple of more things. No. All right. They got the whole thing on there. All right, let's see what point number 1 has to say. Point number 1, and we're going to get into the reliability of the cornerstone. So, the reliability of the cornerstone. Can you trust your cornerstone? So, on your handout, your first blank, there's the reliability of the cornerstone. Right? It has to be carefully set. Everything else is laid up against the cornerstone. If it's not located properly, could you imagine having the cornerstone in the middle of the living room?
No.
What's not going to be in the living room?
Me.
Furniture. The living room. It will just be a rock, but it's a rock. So if it's not located properly, if it's not set properly, everything else as we mentioned before, will be off. For this reason, the cornerstone is costly and most important. And we can see this as an example in the Old Testament temple. In your handouts, the verse might be in there, 1 Kings chapter 5 and verse 17. 1 Kings 5 and verse 17 says, "And the king commanded, and they brought great stones, costly stones, and huge stones to lay the foundation of the house." And so these are the most work goes into the cornerstone. All right? So why must the cornerstone be reliable? Why? Right? If it's not, nothing else is. All right, let's go to point number A. Why must the cornerstone be reliable? Number one, for identity. Can you tell the cornerstone? If you've ever gone to a building that has a cornerstone, do you know where the cornerstone is? Most of the time I have a plaque on them, yep. When we were in Spain, I mentioned the castles. I could find the cornerstone, number one, because of its size. It was bigger and it had a different shape. The other one, it had a plaque on it. Usually it had the date, or not a plaque, but the date was carved into it. So we were at some castles and it would be 1500 something was the date that was carved into that stone. And that's the date that they set that cornerstone. When you set a cornerstone, do you know what you're about to build? Okay, a castle, right? It's going to be something big for it. It identifies that it's going to be built from what material? And it tells us where it's going to start. So if Christ is our cornerstone, what is he building? Okay, his church and us. All right, so we're looking at both of these things simultaneously. We're looking at the Christian and we're looking at the church. So is Christ true? All right, so his church, is it true? And if we're followers of Christ, will our lives be true? Yes, absolutely. And so again, the importance of the cornerstone. I just covered all of that. Look at that. Let's go to the next slide. Letter B. What else? Why else does the cornerstone need to be reliable? For unity. For unity. If Christ is building his church and he's the cornerstone of the church, and we are the stones, all right? We are the building material for his church. How can I say this without sounding terrible? What would it be like? All right, so you're inside a church building, right? You're inside a building. And there's sheetrock on the walls, all right? And those of us that did construction or deconstruction in the back, we saw that we have aluminum studs, thank you. The word just, aluminum studs, all right? And there's a stud it was about every 18 inches. 16 inches is supposed to be exactly right. Some of them were 24 inches. But if a stud is here and a stud is here, we'll put them like this, and then a stud is here, but this stud doesn't like this stud, and so this stud decides that it's not going to do its job and it's just going to leave the wall. What does that do for the wall?
Weakens it.
Right? And so, again, going back to what we're trying to say about unity here, if Jesus Christ is the cornerstone and we're the building stones of the church, and we just decide we're going to do whatever we want, what does that do to that building? Right? So if we're stones in a building, we're the castle, right? We're a big church building, like in England, they have those old cathedrals, right? Let's say, have that picture in your mind, and we are the stones. And we just decide we're going to do whatever we want, whenever we want, without consulting the chief cornerstone. What is our cathedral going to look like? It's going to be full of holes, or it's going to look like it didn't survive World War II, right? Like it got hit by cannonballs and chunks of it are missing. But the one thing that's going to be there is going to be the cornerstone. And what the Lord is trying to teach us in this is we as a church, we as the stones need to be unified so that our building can be strong. So a chief cornerstone, try to say chief cornerstone and Jesus Christ at the same time and see what comes out of your lips. If the chief cornerstone is Jesus Christ and he's true, and then we as the stones, we also need to be in our place and unified so that the church can be what? Yep, strong. Look with me, Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 21. Again, this should be in your handout. Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 21, in whom all the building fitly framed together groweth unto an holy temple in the Lord. What is fitly framed together? What kind of image comes to your mind when it says fitly framed together?
Every piece fits. Exactly.
I like all of those answers. I like all of those answers. When Solomon was building the temple, a bunch of interesting things about Solomon building the temple. Number one, none of the stones were worked on in the temple. They were all worked on a site away from Temple Mount, and then they were brought to Temple Mount, and then they were placed. The stones were so exact that you couldn't slide a piece of paper between the two stones. That's fitly framed together. Right? I can't get guys today to build a block wall and have it straight and have it stuck together. Right? There's gaps. Matter of fact, I was looking at the wall as we were doing the patio that my wife was talking about. I was looking at the wall, and there's a gap of the mortar that's missing down towards the bottom. Think of a wall that doesn't need mortar and that will not fall. That's how this temple was. And so when it talks about fitly framed together, that's what it's talking about. You can go look at the pyramids that were built thousands of years ago, and it's the same thing. They would hew the stones, and the stones would fit together so well that you can't slide paper between them. That's fitly framed together. And the Bible tells us that that's how we're to be. The idea is to join closely together, to frame together. We are to exactly fit together. And how do we do that? Our cornerstone. 1 Peter chapter 2, verses 4 through 6. It says this, to whom coming as unto a living stone, disallowed indeed of men, but chosen of God and precious, speaking of Jesus Christ, ye also, as lively stones, are built up a spiritual house and holy priesthood to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God by Jesus Christ. Wherefore also it is contained in the Scripture, behold, I lay in Zion a chief cornerstone, elect, precious, and he that believeth on him shall not be confounded. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 15 and 16. Again, this should be in your handout. But speaking the truth in love may grow up unto him or into him in all things, which is the head, even Christ, from whom the whole body fitly joined together and compacted by that which every joint supplieth, according to the effectual working in the measure of every part, maketh increase of the body unto the edifying of itself in love. So not only are we to be fitly joined together, but compacted, right? And so we're to slide together so that paper can't fit in there. And then what happens with compacted? It's like he takes have you ever worked with a tamper? We had to tamp some sand in this patio things, and ours is just a 10 by 10 steel square that's heavy on a pole, and you go poof, 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 poof. And what does that do to the sand? It compacts it down, right? And levels it. Well, this says you're already fit together, but then it says you're tamped down. Right? You're fitly joined, or you're compacted. And so what does that mean for a church? Should we be unified?
Yes.
We ought to be unified. We have one enemy, and that's the devil. You're not my enemy. We're not enemies. Humans aren't the enemies. The enemy is the devil. And we need to be unified against him. All right, point number C for direction. The reliability of the cornerstone, we need to know where we're going, don't we? Where's the church going? What's the purpose of the church? Help me out. What's the purpose of the church?
To build the kingdom, right?
Okay, that's it in a nutshell, right? To go, to teach, so seeing people saved, to baptize, and to continue to teach, discipleship. That's the Great Commission. Go ye into all the world, preach the gospel to every creature, right? What else is the purpose of the church? So we're to see people saved, we're to baptize, we're to disciple. What else do we do? Okay, edify, so build up one another. All right, what else do we do? Okay, encourage, I like that. That's part of edifying. What'd you say? All right, so speak the truth. Give the truth. Teach the truth. Right? And that verse actually means be the truth. Okay, what else? What else do we do?
Pray for others.
We grow together, right? I mean,
Growing together, that's edifying and encouraging. Yep,
aren't we supposed to be the body of Christ?
yep. All right.
Say that again?
Help the fatherless. That's pure religion. What else do we do? Glorify God.
Right.
Those of you that are in my Friday class, you ought to know I'm doing something.
I know, I'm sitting here.
All right, any action that I do, you need to, you pay attention to any action that I do. Okay?
Join. Intertwine.
Yeah, getting there. Getting there. Right? The way that we join together, it entails that we do something with each other. Okay, so we've already talked about encourage, we've already talked about edify, we've already talked about being fitly joined. What's an important function in the church?
Love one another.
Okay, love one another. How do we do that? What's the physical manifestation of loving one another?
Taking care of each other.
Okay. How do I know you have a need?
Communication.
How do we communicate? When do we communicate? So when I'm preaching, how much talking is going on? All right, just me. All right, so there's not a whole lot of communication going on except teaching. All right, when do you find out the needs one with another? Fellowship. One of the major functions of the church is fellowship, right? That's when we have the opportunity to know, to encourage, to pray, to love, right? Because when you're just sitting there and you're listening to me say blah, 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 and then I ask you a question, you all freak out because now I'm asking you to use your minds. And, right? And so the purpose of the reliability of the cornerstone is so that we know in what direction to go. Now, where do you think I got all those ideas from for the church? Where do you think I got them all from? You know, I was sitting in my office one day and I just said, you know what Old Pueblo Baptist Church is going to do? Well, yeah, we get the direction from the scriptures. So we're going to have a biblical worldview or a biblical view of what the church is. Right? And so when we learn about the cornerstone and we understand the cornerstone and how the cornerstone functions and then how we function in relation to the cornerstone, what's going to happen to the church? What's going to happen to the building? Well, it's just going to, I mean, if I said that castle in Spain was there in 1500 something, how many years ago was that? Right? So that's 1,000 years. And you could still live in the castle because it's still standing. It lasts. It's there for 1,000 years. And so the importance of the cornerstone is what we're going to be looking at over the next couple of weeks. All right? So we're going to stop here. We'll pick up point number 2 next week, Lord willing, and continue on looking at getting the right biblical view of things going on, philosophies in the world. And again, we need a good foundation, and that's what we're talking about before we can touch on these other, the world views that we're going to be looking at. So we need a good foundation. And that foundation starts with the cornerstone. All right, questions, comments? Yes?